Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F122 My Team Career Mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we are headed to round 4 on the season here in Italy here for the Imola race here at the, what is it called, the Emilia-Romagna GP, whatever it is. I apologize, I probably botched the name of this GP here, but it's such a long name as well. But nonetheless, very excited for this one here. Imola is always a fun track in F1 2021 and I've had a blast so far racing on this track in F1 22. And most importantly, today, for the first time in our F1 career, we are going to have a sprint race. So our first sprint race weekend, it'll be interesting to see how that is going to change the dynamic and maybe throw some curveballs at not only myself, but my teammate of Oscar Piastri here with this Trackhouse Racing team, but as well as the other AI, as well as you can see the R&D chart going into Imola. Mercedes has made a big leap actually from Australia coming into this weekend. We've made a leap ahead, but we're still actually at the bottom here on the chart, or towards the bottom of the chart, I should say. Williams currently shows the slowest car on the chart, or at least the worst car on the chart now, as we were coming into this weekend here for this first practice session, and only get one practice session actually before qualifying, and only 2 overall practice sessions this weekend, so a little bit more limited on time to kind of get a feel for the car. And practice started off a little bit rough here. I feel like I've spun out every weekend so far in practice as I'm just trying to find the limit. You can see some new sponsors on the car. I actually didn't even realize it could go into the car livery and throw sponsors on the car. That's how you can tell I'm a complete noob with the My Team series so far. But we got a nice Polar sponsor here on the Halo, but we might not see this livery for much longer, because hopefully we're gonna have a modded livery come into this My Team Career Mode very soon, within a couple more episodes. So pay attention to that when that happens. You'll of course see it, and I'll make sure to show it off when it happens now, as we come through to set some pretty competitive times here in practice in Imola. I was pretty happy with how things were going. This was my qualifying pace lap here, and actually I had a little bit of oversteer there on the exit of the final quarter, but we just barely beat the goal, and overall we're able to beat all the objectives that we were attempting. And actually we're P2 in free practice 1, but take that with a grain of salt. I don't know what was up with the AI. They were just really slow at free practice 1 apparently, because I knew that wasn't going to be a very good lap for a second place. But we come through into qualifying now, and well, look at the conditions here in Imola. It was a little bit of a different scenario. It was a downpour for qualifying here, so we got our work cut out for us for our first attempt in the wet weather here in this F122 My Team Career Mode. This qualifying session doesn't set the grid for the race, it sets the grid for the sprint, and then, as you guys know, the sprint sets the grid, the finishing results of that for the actual GP. And my first lap here in the wet conditions wasn't very good. I was definitely being a little bit cautious, trying to find my braking zones and whatnot, and it was overall not a horrendous lap, but it wasn't a very competitive lap was the issue, as I would come through out of that final turn down the front straightaway and cross the line, and it was, well, dead last. So we come through now a little bit quicker on this second attempt, actually through this hairpin right here. I really found some good time getting the traction there and power down, and we actually were able to gain about 0.8 of a second when we came through into this chicane. Gave a little bit of time up here in this final sector, had a bit of a rough final sector in mid to late sector 2, but we would end up actually gaining quite a bit here in the final couple of corners, and we managed to find about 1.1 seconds extra in the timing, and I felt like I had a little bit more left over that I could have found, so I tried to go for a third lap. We went P13 so far, but like I said, tried to go for a third lap, but unfortunately it wasn't a good third lap here. I go around and actually loop it and go for a spin there. So we unfortunately though would actually qualify all the way at the back of the grid here. Now, as I was hoping 13th would be enough, no, we start dead last here in the sprint race, so not what I was expecting here, but we're only a couple of tenths off of Piastri, and I knew I could easily get a couple extra tenths out of that third lap if it didn't go wrong, so there's some positives there. But let's head to the grid here for the sprint race.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Perez, George Russell and Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Bottas, Ocon and Lando Norris. Mick Schumacher, Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly and Joe, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Sebastian Vettel and Oscar Piastri, Albon, Latifi, Stroll and Golden Boy. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
Ready to go green here in the sprint race in Imola. You can see that it's actually supposed to rain right towards the end of this session, but it's going to be very light rain. I'd be pretty surprised if we had to come into the pit lane to put on any form of wet compound tires. So we'll probably be able to stay out on this medium compound tire throughout the whole sprint race here. Now as we pull up to our grid slot and did a nice parking job right there from the back of the grid. Lance Stroll, fellow Canadian, and Latifi in front of us there. 3 Canadians at the back of the grid. It's 5 red lights and it's going to be lights out. We are underway here for the first sprint race of this F122 My Team career mode. Leclerc, who's dominated the season so far, is alongside Verstappen as head down into turn 1. It's a pretty superb start right there from Verstappen here. It's going to go side by side, but he's going to fall in behind, it looks like, a little bit into turn 1. Wide in the background is Perez and Sainz. Perez off the circuit there into the gravel, and he's going to be all the way at the back of the grid. There goes George Russell now putting the fight to Max Verstappen here. Unexpected start for Verstappen suddenly, who got pushed a little bit wide from Charles Leclerc, who's already long gone down the road. So see you later, says Charles Leclerc. He's going to probably cruise to a sprint victory already here with a start like that. Now, as you can see in the background, Verstappen does get ahead of George Russell. Lewis Hamilton just in behind as well, but a big moment on this opening lap for Perez and Carlos Sainz, and we're going to get a look here momentarily at what happened now as Perez. The question is, does he have wing damage from that contact that sent him off the circuit? Doesn't matter for him, obviously. He's going to have a long road ahead here, as you can see myself right to the back of this train of cars as they all head down towards this chicane. You can see a little bit of side by side, but not too much. But overall, a pretty good start for most of the drivers except for Carlos Sainz and Perez. And here's what happened right here. Carlos Sainz logs up into turn 1. Perez is just in the wrong place, wrong time. Couldn't do anything about it. Off the circuit, he gets pushed wide, and you can see here on board with Sainz, locks up the left front into turn 1, and you saw Verstappen nearly went off the circuit as well. There was some wing damage in that whole mess as well for Valtteri Bottas. So Bottas, Sainz, Perez, and actually Alex Albon all were in the pit lane here to repair their front wings at the conclusion of this first lap. Not the ideal start for those 4 drivers here now, as it helps us. So we get up into 18th place on the opening lap of this, or at the end of the opening lap of this Imola sprint race here now as we run P18 behind Lance Stroll. But I was struggling a little bit for pace, and that was being proven right here. You can see that I actually was able to get past Nicholas Latifi, by the way, who did fall behind. But other than that, I mean, here I am 0.8 of a second behind Lance Stroll here. Now Yuki Tsunoda, actually ahead of us, has gone off the circuit as well into turn 1 into battle with his teammate. And here you can see on board with him, he locks up kind of like Carlos Sainz did in turn 1 on the opening lap. So off the circuit he went, and that would allow us to be up to now 16th position here in the 6th lap of this race. You can see the cloud cover starting to come over the track, but it doesn't look like it's going to start raining early enough for anything to happen now. As you can see, lap 7, here goes George Russell, a move up the inside of Lewis Hamilton with the DRS assist, and up into 3rd place. The final podium position in the sprint race goes George Russell. Only the top 8 get points. Do keep that in mind here in the sprint race as we come through this final chicane on lap 7. You can see Lando Norris is out of the GP. It's a mechanical failure for the McLaren. McLaren having a bit of a rough season so far with R&D, and so are we with Trackhouse, with Piastri having a couple of retirements already. Now a few laps later, lap 9, Hamilton back up the inside of Russell with the DRS. This time he takes 3rd place back, as we have had no safety cars so far in this sprint race, and it looks like now it's too late for a safety car to even happen as Verstappen tries to chase down Leclerc, who's well ahead now. As you can see, Mark on the bottom tells me that Pierre Gasly actually has an issue with his car, so he would be a little bit off the pace, and that was the battle happening in front of me, and that would bring me quite a bit closer to Lance Stroll, Sebastian Vettel, and whatnot down this front straightaway, but still ways behind. I just didn't have the pace here in the sprint race that they did, or even my teammate of Piastri, who's now making a move on the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly. Now both AlphaTauris running into some form of issue here today. As you can see now, Vettel sends one up the inside. No, that's Lance Stroll, and then there's an accident in the background there. As you can see, Gasly has actually at the back of that battle has completely lost his front wheel there, and you're going to see a replay. He's actually going to run into the back of Lance Stroll, and the tire just flies off the car. The retirement for the AlphaTauri celebratory driver. No safety car. It's far too late in the session at this point for a safety car. More yellow flags ahead of us at this point going into the chicane now, and it's actually going to be the Haas of Kevin Magnussen who's gone around for a spin, it looks like here, as we're going to get an onboard look at what just happened to K-Mag into the chicane coming to the final lap of the sprint. And yes, he loses it on the curbing, spins it around, actually hits pretty good contact on the rear end against the Pirelli barrier right there, but an unfortunate mistake right there for Kevin Magnussen now, as we were on this final lap already of the sprint race, in which has been a wild sprint race to say the least so far in Imola. But it's been a dominant effort from Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen was actually closing in on Leclerc on these closing laps, but not close enough. As you can see, the rain had started to fall on the final lap of this sprint race, but it would be Leclerc coming through to win the first sprint race here in this F122 My Team Career Mode over Max Verstappen, who had got within a second of Leclerc, so he had good pace at the end of that sprint, kind of like he had more pace than Leclerc in real life at the end of the sprint. But Hamilton gets the final spot there in the top three. Schumacher in P6, Esteban Ocon, and Zhou Guanyu is going to get his first point in Formula 1. He's going to be the final driver to get points here in the sprint there in P8, so first points to a rookie of Zhou Guanyu now, as we're going to come through this final corner. And after all the chaos, the retirements, we're going to get P13 and start P13 on the grid, of course, for the main race here for the Imola GP. As wow, what a wild sprint race that was, to say the least, as I have no words what to say for the chaos that we just witnessed. Lance Stroll wins driver of the day here for the sprint race now, and you're going to see the finishing order on your screen and how it affects a little bit of the situation with the actual overall point standings and whatnot, and constructor standings. Not huge changes, of course, now as it's only 8 points to the sprint winner and 7 points to Verstappen, so it only loses 1 point to Charles Leclerc. But nonetheless, let's head to the grid for the actual GP.
Hello there and welcome back to Imola, home circuit of the Scuderia Ferrari. We expect to see a lot of local supporters wearing red today, and they've all turned out for what we're expecting will be a sensational event here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. One lap of Imola, anti-clockwise of course, unlike most Formula 1 circuits, will take our drivers around 3.1 miles of track. 19 turns, 9 right-handers and 10 to the left. Drivers will need to be precise at the hairpin at turn 7, given the subsequent uphill section. Without a good exit from that corner, they'll lose a lot of time on that stretch. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Russell, Fernando Alonso and Ocon, Joe, Ricciardo, Stroll and Oscar Piastri, Vettel, Golden Boy, Nicholas Latifi and Tsunoda, Sainz, Magnussen, Mick Schumacher and Sergio Perez, Bottas, Albon, Gasly and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. It's race day yet again, and joining me for a chat is Anthony Davidson. And our racers are certainly in for a rough day today. What will you be watching out for as they head into turn 1?
Well, the start of the race is always one of the most nerve-wracking parts. You have to hope that everyone is able to get off to a clean start, and this is possibly the trickiest part of the entire race. So many drivers in such a small space, and finding your braking point into turn 1 as well. It's a testament to the driver's skill that there aren't more incidents.
Ready to go, lights out, starting P12 after a grid penalty there. As you can see, Lando Norris as well, the grid penalty after his mechanical failure. But as the usual, it is a medium to hard compound tire strategy. We have had zero difference in strategy this season with the whole new qualifying rules, which is really unfortunate that Formula 1 allows that this year. I cannot stand that, but nonetheless here, ready to grid up in this 12th position, and hopefully we can have a strong day here in Imola and avoid chaos that could be coming our way here now as we are ready to go green. 5 red lights. Leclerc, Verstappen, your front row as usual. It's lights out. We are underway here in Imola. Leclerc has been P1 every single GP to start so far this season. No one's been able to beat him in qualifying, and Verstappen's the only one that's beat him in a race so far. 3 rounds in here as they head down into turn 1. Verstappen into the second position, holding on to second position. Looks like a lot cleaner of a start here into turn 1 compared to the sprint race a few moments ago. And you can see right there, no Carlos Sainz or Ferraris or Red Bulls running off the circuit into the gravel. You can see right there though, Russell has is actually in a side-by-side scrap right here with the Alpine of Fernando Alonso here through the hairpin, and you got Esteban Ocon right there in the mix as well. Zhou Guanyu after his first points in F1 as well, ready to pounce on some opportunities if they present themselves now, as Lewis Hamilton currently runs in that third position right there at the back of that Red Bull of Max Verstappen here. Is they're going to be side-by-side in the back run right there. Zhou Guanyu backs out of that battle with the Alpine, says I do not want to risk my car early on this first and opening lap here. Now, of course, you want to be a little bit careful here when it comes to Imola after we saw the chaos in the sprint race and just how full-blown chaos it really was. As you can see, our teammate of Oscar Piastri, though, getting the elbows out there, passing the Aston Martin there, going around the outside, but there's so many cars behind us in this GP after the chaos in the sprint race that are faster than us. Behind us, we got Perez, we got Carlos Sainz, we got the AlphaTauris of Tsunoda, as well as Pierre Gasly, we got Valtteri Bottas. So there's a lot of cars behind us. The two Haas's of Schumacher and Magnussen after Schumacher had to take a grid penalty. So there's so many cars behind us that are so much faster than us. Carlos Sainz, who did get ahead of us on this opening lap, has actually made it 3 wide with Lance Stroll and our teammate of Oscar Piastri down into turn 1, and Sainz is going to sail it off way too deep into the corner the second time this weekend that he's been involved in some form of incident there, as he completely missed the apex, and you see it right here. Down into turn 1, he sails it off in there, misses the corner completely. Off the circuit he goes, and Carlos Sainz struggles with this Ferrari this season continue there, as you see Perez was in the pit lane at the conclusion of lap 1, just like the sprint race, fixing his front wing as Leclerc and Verstappen continue to run P1 and P2. As we come through midway through the second lap, Vettel actually pulls off the circuit. A mechanical failure for the 4-time world champion in the Aston Martin. Very unfortunate when you see your favorite driver go out of the race early there in just second lap of this GP. We were now running P11 after some more opening lap and opening laps chaos. As you can see, Stroll side by side with Oscar Piastri here now, and actually Piastri runs him a little bit wide there, kind of shuts the door on him, so I was able to actually move up at a P10. So both myself and Piastri right now in the points, both of us looking for our first points as well in general here in Formula 1 now, as Piastri almost seemed to be losing a little bit of pace here now, as Schumacher is actually going to run past me down towards this penultimate corner. He was one of the quickest movers other than Carlos Sainz that had a faster car than this Trackhouse racing machine powered by Red Bull powertrains, as you guys know. So Schumacher was on the move. He was now passing Piastri here coming to lap 6. Magnussen was now closing in on me really quick, following in the footsteps here of Schumacher, and he actually makes a big lunge up the inside of me down into turn 1. So you got a Haas Trackhouse lineup right here as we head down, or grid, or leaderboard I guess I should say here, as we now try to defend over Lance Stroll now into this little left-right chicane. But like I was mentioning with Oscar Piastri's pace, he kind of seemed to be losing a little bit of pace compared to the sprint race here. As you can actually see on lap 6 as well, there was contact between Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. They would find themselves in the pit lane at the end of the lap because they had to fix their front wings. So the just chaos of this video continues there, and those are 2 extra spots for myself and Oscar Piastri hopefully now as well, as that is what put us up in 9th and 10th there, as we come through on the exit of that final corner behind Piastri down this front straightaway. DRS activated now, as oh my goodness, there goes the engine out of Piastri's car, and a big mechanical failure right there, and that's the 3rd mechanical failure for Piastri in 4 races. We've been very lucky. We haven't had a mechanical failure so far this season. Guys, we really got to get on top of the engine there. That's the 3rd time this season for him. There you hear myself on the radio about Oscar too, the team with his misfortune that he's had, and there was more chaos happening on this lap as well. You can see actually it's going to be Alex Albon getting wing damage, as he was taken 3 wide right there by an AlphaTauri, his teammate of Nicholas Latifi as well. He would have to come in and fix his wing now as things were continuing to go on in this race, and Tsunoda was actually able to pass me in his faster car. Sainz would actually run me back down, and actually Bottas as well. But you heard myself, like I said, on the radio to the team right there, and with the storyline here of this My Team Career Mode, we're not the owner of Trackhouse Racing. Justin Marks is the owner of Trackhouse Racing, but myself and Oscar both still play a pivotal role in leading this team and developing this car. Like I said, we play more of a developing role with this team than drivers on other teams do, but we're not the overall people running the team. So we still want to, of course, have our voices heard, and we need to crack down on the durability of this car, which I think we've been really fortunate to not have a mechanical failure so far, especially with the settings that we use and seeing Oscar's now had 3 in just 4 races now. Leclerc into the pit lane at the conclusion of lap 14, coming to lap 15. Verstappen as well in the pits. Russell stays out, as you can see. Zhou Guanyu, what a run he is having here in P5. He's had a rough start to the season, having a great run today. He comes into the pits. I would also come into the pits here at the conclusion of lap 14, coming to lap 15 here for our first and hopefully only pit stop on the GP to put on this hard compound tire now as we head in towards this little gate right here to turn in. And actually, unfortunately, I'm a little bit late once again there. I think that's the second GP in a row that I've been a little bit late for that, but it was about a 3.2 second pit stop here for us in Imola, which isn't the worst in the world. Now as we're on the hard compound tire, I already knew the situation. These tires, they're going to be cold, so I got to be very, very careful here. I've learned very quick here over the last couple of episodes to be very cautious and just kind of patient on the hard compound tires. You do see as well our engine taking some wear, but hopefully it's going to make it to the end of this GP. Perez here was actually on lap 17, finally running me back down after his misfortune on lap 1. I would not fight him whatsoever. I would let him have the spot there into the left-hander. No point in fighting a guy like Perez. Norris actually had run me down as well, blew right on by me, so I was in a position where I'm trying to save my battery as well. It's so easy to drain your ERS here. Now is actually up in front of us. Yellow flags. It's a Ferrari. It's Carlos Sainz again for the 3rd time this weekend off the circuit in turn 1. Oh my goodness, it gets worse. Another costly mistake for the Spaniard there. You can't keep making those, Carlos, here. As a look at what happened. As you can see, he's side by side with the Haas into turn 1 and just simply misses the corner again. Unbelievable from Carlos Sainz. It's a lockup right there on the left front. It's almost like he got scared by the Haas on the turn and being side by side. And you see the graphic there. The 3rd time this weekend that he's had a incident there with the contact shoving Perez off the track and damaging his own car on lap 1 of the sprint race. And it's all happened in turn 1, running off turn 1 wide into the gravel twice in this race as well. What a just unfortunate GP it's been for Carlos Sainz. But as well, you think back to the Saudi Arabian GP in Jeddah, where we saw Carlos Sainz all on his lonesome have a self-inflicted incident there, head on into a barrier, tore the right front off the car late in that race as well, which brought out the first and so far only safety car this season. It has not been a good start. It's been a mixed bag because of course Carlos rebounded after Saudi Arabia last episode in Australia with a runner-up 2nd place finish to his teammate Charles Leclerc, but then he comes into Imola and it's all been on his own mistakes that have taken him out of any potential good running position here, as he's currently P14, and I was going to have to deal with him again passing me now as we continue to look down the grid here at the current running order with now less than 10 laps to go in this GP. Kevin Magnussen in P17, so he had run into somebody and probably picked up some wing damage. Here comes Carlos Sainz on lap 25. He is able to pass me down into turn 1 without any issue. That might be the first time he's passed anybody without running off the track in turn 1 this weekend. There you hear myself with a nice little comment towards Carlos's weekend here in Imola. Now is actually on lap 28. Here comes Alonso. A little bit of contact with him down under turn 1. You see the difference in pace between my car and the Alpine as well. We dropped down to P15, but still having an overall decent run here as I'm surveying the damage there. I couldn't tell if we picked up left side wing damage or not on the car, but running P15 would be the lowest we would fall because behind us was Lance Stroll, and then Gasly was 23 seconds behind here. And actually, Charles Leclerc was lapping us here in the closing moments of this race, and Lance Stroll was getting lapped into turn 1 but refused to move out of the way and actually would run himself off the track into turn 1. What are you doing, Lance Stroll? And he would just make his day go from pretty rough to miserable here as I would get lapped by Leclerc as well. This now final lap of the GP. We picked up a 3-second time penalty for running a little bit wide on the track limits, but Charles Leclerc in dominating fashion again will come through to set the fastest lap with an extra point and win here in Imola. We crossed the line for not 2nd place but P15 here, unfortunately, after an up and down weekend. But overall, I will take 15th place for the speed of this car. We just didn't seem to have a car that really gelled with the track once again, but overall put up a respectable finish for the car that we have. Lando Norris, driver of the day. Let's head to the podium celebrations.
They take the checkered flag then here in Imola in what has been another outstanding Grand Prix. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
And here we are at team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today and a stunning win for Ferrari.
Charles Leclerc celebrates his, third win of the season in just 4 races. His worst finish so far is 2nd place. What a season start it has been for Leclerc. Max Verstappen runner-up again here, as he's had a few of those this season as well. And, well, you see, joining them there on the podium, I'm sure, is going to be a very, very delighted George Russell there, as unfortunately for Lewis Hamilton, it could have been him today, but it didn't work out after that contact that he had with Fernando Alonso. They both actually came home 8th and 9th place. Zhou Guanyu with 5th place. What a weekend for him. Gets his first point in a sprint race and then actually goes and finishes even better in the race by keeping the car clean there. A great day for Zhou Guanyu now. I'm very happy to see that for him in the Alfa Romeo, and I really feel like they did him dirty with his rating in this game. It's way too low. He's been putting up superb results in real life, and I really would like to see his rating get increased. But there you see the point standings. Leclerc with a 21-point lead over Verstappen, so nearly a full race after 4 races completed here. Going into the next one with Miami, who knows what we'll see there. As you can see, though, the constructors between Ferrari and Red Bull, just 5 points separating chasing Red Bull to that Ferrari team, as post-race here, trying to get some more upgrades in the car with the R&D, and trying to get all departments, honestly. But durability, I think, is something that we kind of need to focus on as well, because obviously you saw right there, Piastri, his 3rd mechanical failure in just the first 4 episodes of this season. But you can see that those upgrades should bring us a little bit closer to AlphaTauri here going into Miami. But what an episode it was. Crazy to say the least. In the next one, we head to the Miami GP, the Trackhouse team's first home race of the season. Very excited to see if we can put up a decent result for them. Who knows what to expect there in the first ever race at that circuit. But if you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. I would like to thank you all for taking the time of your day for watching, and I'll see you guys in that one for Miami, where hopefully, if we have maybe a crazy race, a miracle race, maybe some weather helps us out, we could maybe even get points here for our team in their home GP. But we'll see what happens. Thank you for watching one more time. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day, everybody.